It's been a long week in San Francisco. I maybe had a bit too much to drink. And I'm looking to get right with the world before heading home tomorrow. Red's Java House is a relic. Like the House of Prime Rib and the Zam Zam Room, an unmolested, strangely protected space. A state of mind, really, in the shadow of the bridge. Where does my burger come from, some might have you ask? Who raised the beef from which my burger was ground? Under what circumstances was it raised? What was it fed? Here's what I want to know. Is my burger good? Here, $7 more or less gets you a double cheeseburger and a beer. Wine is $1, and espresso is nowhere to be seen.
Boy, anytime you begin to doubt the wonderfulness of San Francisco, really, all you got to do is come here. Chili cheese fries, so wrong.
Real cheese, cheddar on my fries. Is it organic? Why would you care? The morning, the world right now is perfect.
The smell in here is magnificent. It's like a bed of roses, only different. In fact, it's a perfect metaphor for San Francisco's divided nature. They're wonderful, old-school, high-fat, high-animal protein. Here for breakfast, kind of a place like this could happily and proudly coexist with, well, one of the crunchiest populations in America. This is the antidote to Alice Waters.
Okay.
Tastes like it died screaming.
Dock workers, firemen, hipsters, yuppies, hippies, and construction workers joined in a truly democratic communion of affordable excellence. It's cheap, it's good, it's got a view if you want it. What do I really think about San Francisco? I know it to be a great food town, a great chef town, a place with a sense of humor for sure, as the locals endure my merciless poking fun at them with regularity. What do I really know of San Francisco? Well, you saw the show, you tell me. I can say with assurance only that I always have a very good time here.
Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations. A brand new episode starts right now.
Anthony Bourdain doesn't just search, he decides. Official decision engine of No Reservations.
This is a hard place, rock and steel, where life was always tough, but tougher for invaders. You need a knife here, and everybody's got one. Things are still made by hand. The old ways, the very fact of its apartness, are honored still. You keep your family close. My family. I'm Anthony Bourdain. I write, I travel, I eat, and I'm hungry for more. I come from a small family. Even at holiday meals, it was just me, my father, mother, younger brother, and maybe a cousin once in a while. Maybe that's one reason I've always been kind of bitter about not being Italian-American. Why I always kind of yearn for that, those scenes in movies for the whole family sitting around at a long table, kids running around everywhere. Even when they were arguing, that looked good to me. A few years ago, I guess I got my wish. I married this woman, Ottavia.
Okay, so can you give me a quick translation here? What is this?
What is this? I don't know.
What? You just did it.
You know, you move your hands. It doesn't really mean anything.
And with her came a large family in Lombardy, where she grew up, and another large family here, where her father's people are from, in Sardinia. So I guess this show is kind of like Meet the Fockers, Sardinian style. Difference being, I actually like my in-laws a lot, And of course, I've been here before. Needless to say, the first time I came here, it absolutely blew my mind, which is why we're back with cameras. Now, not to worry, I'm not going all Jamie Oliver on you. I'm not going to be dragging my family around in future episodes. This isn't some new family-friendly Cosby-esque me. It's just here in Sardinia. I mean, who better to show me around than the people who introduced me to it in the first place? Plus, Sardinia is the kind of place you better know somebody. The bumper stickers around here proudly proclaim, this is not Italy. And they're not kidding. It's an island, 6 to 7 hours by boat west of central Italy, with its own language, its own culture, a tradition of isolation, clannishness, a place where people still only half-jokingly will tell you that there are bandits in the next village. European law, the Italian language, the 20th and 21st century, they arrived here kind of late. Which suits me just fine, because the food is unbelievable. It's everything you love about Italy, but somehow more intense. And it looks like another world. I'm becoming a regular here at Sugolagone, a hotel in the interior at the foot of a mountain range. Old school, a place where the food's much admired by locals, this in a country where eating in restaurants is seen largely as a character flaw. The owner is this woman, Pasqua, who in most hotels would probably be out front doing the meet and greet thing, but here spends much of her time in the kitchen. A couple of features you should notice straight off, because they're going to appear again and again and again in and around nearly every meal. Meals almost always begin with this in one form or another: homemade and cured meats, a selection of hams, sausages, maybe a little pecorino, this being sheep country. Lots of this stuff, the omnipresent flatbread of Sardinia, panna carazal. Pasta are more often pastas, usually specific to the area, and also always homemade. Then open hearth or fire, usually with great hunks of meat on skewers sizzling nearby.
I remember going to your family's home, and it was just like this whirlwind of meat. I mean, it was like everything. It was like the greatest hits of Sardinian cuisine all in one meal.
Yes.
There was like a whole baby goat and a whole baby pig.
Yes.
And a seafood salad and fish and pasta, like 2 different types
Well,
of
they
pastas.
wanted you to try everything.
And I did, all in one meal.
Yes.
It's not going to be like that this time.
It's not going to be like that this time.
Partiamo del vino?
Sì, grazie. House wine is good?
Maybe I wanted to spring for some just monstrous,
House wine is
40-year-old Barolo or something. No?
You don't drink Barolo in Sardinia. You drink Cannonau in Sardinia.
Now you
You're
say.
supposed to drink the wine they produce here. So Cannonau is the way to go.
So you grew up in the north of Italy near Lago di Garda,
Yes.
in Milan.
Yes.
But your father's whole side of the family,
Yes.
Sardinian.
I never lived in Sardinia, but since I was a kid, we were coming here every year for
For a
the
month.
summer. Yes.
So I remember Adriana
Andreana is the leader of the family.
definitely took charge. She had everybody kind of hopping and.
She's tough.
So what do you miss about Sardinia?
Well, what I miss now that I live in New York is the big family. Their way of living is different. Here the food is all natural. The recipes are the same recipe that, grandma used to make and grandmas used to make. And the food is just simple but delicious. Yeah, I wonder what are we gonna have?
I'm guessing everything.
The pastas here are different, a lot different than on the mainland. Here we've got these flour-cut pastas called pupusas with fresh pesto, rag-cut sheet pasta with porcini mushrooms and artichokes, and raviolis filled with fresh ricotta and wild fennel.
Okay, let's do some romantic thing.
But like, no, get that. No, that's so like Rachel's weekend getaway, Giada's weekend getaway.
I know. Giada and Rachel take their husband on their getaways, and then, they whisper sweet words of love, and, they drink a nice Bellini crossing their arms.
Are you watching those shows?
No, I heard.
The stereotype of Sardinia is it's all shepherds and kidnappers with knives.
Okay. Well, there are shepherds.
And there are
There are kidnappers, and there are knives, yes.
everybody's got one.
I didn't know that.
No, everybody has a little. Everybody cuts everything with those little.
Well, yes, of course, you use it to cut your cheese, but you don't go around terrorizing people with your knife.
Right, but I mean, who walks around New York with a, oh, cheese, I'll have some brie. I mean, that's the
good.
That looks good. Perfect, pink, lovely.
Sardinian meat is really good. It's more muscular, it's less fatty, but it's so flavorful. This melts in your mouth.
I think we've learned something here today.
What did we learn?
I know that I'll be doing some serious eating.
You will.
Serious.
I hope you're ready for that.
When you've got a big family in a place where everybody knows everybody's people, everywhere you go has a history. Here at Rocas in the mountains, not too far from Nuoro, Ottavia's dad Angelo used to play as a kid. Rocas, an agriturismo built cave-like back into the rocks. What is an agriturismo? I think it's like the greatest institution ever. Basically a funky little place in either a home, a farmhouse.
Sure feel like a drink.
They appear all over Italy and Sardinia, where the small, usually set menu is explicitly local. It's fantastic. You can easily eat your way from town to town all across the country, scarfing up local specialties. This one is a family favorite, meaning Andreana likes it. No small accomplishment, I can tell you. And Ottavia's parents, Angelo and Mauro, were happy to trade babysitting duties for a meal here.
Well, I have many obsessions in this part of the world, but I'm really into this agriturismo thing. What does it mean?
They live on what they produce.
So they're making the wine, clearly.
Fanno il vino.
The vegetables, or many or most of them. The main course, the goat, I'm guessing, from around here.
It's like the typical Sardinian sausage. This is the cartilage of the pig in gelatin.
That sounds good.
I love fatty cured meat.
The Catalans from what is now Spain occupied Sardinia for some time, and their influence appears in some of the food, most notably and to best effect in the Sardinian ham. Strikingly different from, and so much better than, Italian prosciutto.
Around here they cut the prosciutto a little bit thicker.
See, it's good to be invaded by people. It's good for food.
I know, it is good for food.
You don't want to be around when it happens, but living in a place that has been invaded a lot, it's sort of gonna... Like, you've seen this show. I'm always going on about this.
Yes, I know.
This must be terribly boring for you.
Do you want to talk about this now?
Pasta, of course. Here, macarones de buza served with a simple tomato sauce.
Oh, nice. It's good.
Buonissimo. Sì, è vero, eh? At the table, if there is good food, everybody agrees. There is no fighting.
And this roast meat specialty with a difference. Capretto arrosto stiglial, which I'm gathering means baby goat spit roasted over the open fire, but here it's basted with the drippings of flaming lardo, chunks of lightly cured, seasoned, and herbed pork fat. Look at that. That glorious melting pork fat gives the goat a dark golden color and a crispness and intense flavor unlike anything else.
Delicious. So good. Sorry, I'm having too much.
Wow.
Whoa.
Un po' di costole.
Nice little ribs.
The ribs.
Oh, nice.
That's a nice touch.
Last, but by no means least, roasted cheese with local honey.
Ooh, that's good.
Is it? Okay, good.
I like to think that family-run agriturismos like Rocas are the future of Sardinia's tourism industry. Hell, the whole world's tourism industry. But first, I'm going to get a taste of what working people in Sardinia have for lunch.
I don't think donkey is eaten at all outside Sardinia.
The Buzzia clan live in Nuoro, a town in the mountains in the interior where smart Sardinians always settled back in the days when malaria bedeviled the coast. A compound, 5 floors of different wings of the family, where Andreana lives.
I haven't seen this part of town before. Where are we?
This is the part of town where they were not born here, but they lived here since they were 6 years old. In this square, they used to play, my uncle and my aunt and my dad.
quella parte.
There's clearly a deep family connection to this square since we almost immediately run into the newest generation. She's already a big fan of the local cheeses, by the way.
Oh.
Okay. It's okay now? Okay, so this house...
The pink one over here.
Quella era la
It was great-grandfather's house.
padre e mio.
My dad
E
and
nella piazza.
the family was always playing over there when they were children. Obviously, because we live in New York now, you know, when we come back here and I see this, you know, for you, it's something so different. For me, it's like, you know, I grew up in Italy, so.
So to me, it's an exotic wonderland. To you, it's New Jersey.
No, it's not. Poi passano le macchine di qua.
Now, what's seen and heard and known of Sardinia is mostly the coast, the Costa Smeralda, where it's traditional for the Europeans super rich and famous to go on vacation, put on a Speedo, stand in ankle-deep water with their bimbos, and get their photos taken by paparazzi. That's kind of the story of Sardinia, actually, for all the waves of invaders who've been through. They never really made it too far in from the coast. Sassari, Sardinia's second largest city, is about a 2-hour drive north. Highways that twist through mountains and hills and pastures past Stonehenge-era structures called nuraghi, the roads often lined with flowers. Angelo, Ottavia's dad, was born here, but I came for the snails, and the artichokes and the cordula, and a typical working man's grab-a-bite joint, Zia Forica. In a culture not known for fast food, this is about as quick as it gets. A place where you can drop in, grab a couple of small plates, maybe a quick donkey steak, and move on. Total time elapsed, about half an hour. Or like me, you can linger, as I'm doing with Carlos and Lisa. Two friends with a shared interest in Sardinian history and culture.
People eat well here, particularly here. And I saw a poster. It says something like Sardinia is not Italy.
Yeah. No, I mean...
You didn't have to think about that.
Until 40 years ago, practically no Italian was spoken, not at all. They don't talk about Italy, they talk about the continent, which is Europe.
Così facciamo.
This is an amazing array of stuff here. Anchovy, the octopus with cordula, the lower intestine wrapped up.
With peas.
And cooked with peas, of course the fava beans. Nice. This is sensational.
Sensational.
See, a lot of the food I've been seeing has been very, very, very traditional. You know, goes way back.
Pre-Roman times.
But there are also influences from elsewhere. Well, the tomato managed to find its way here.
And gotta have the donkey, right?
I don't think donkey is eaten at all outside Sardinia.
So where did this tradition come from? This is what was available, or?
Yes.
And how come it's still here? It's a smart college town. Whatever reason there was initially to eat donkey has disappeared. It's now, people like it. It's like the few remaining people in France that still eat horse. They like it. Well, I've never had it. I got up looking forward to trying. Hey, that's good. It's tough but tasty.
The snail's famous around these parts, and at Zia Forica in particular.
So, the famous snails.
Grilled.
Grilled. Come on to Papa. Good stuff. Is this a young country or an old country? I mean, I see a lot of kids, but nobody dies in this country ever, right? I mean, they live to like 120.
Sardinia has the lowest birth rate in Italy.
Wow.
And Italy has one of the lowest birth rate in Europe. And then there is a strong migration movement.
Away.
So
what happens to Sardinia? It's spectacularly beautiful, and there seems to be no one here. Honestly, for me, I'd fly here for the food. If I were working for the Sardinian government or the tourism board, I would be saying, listen, you get your ass over here, stay in a, wherever, in a village, in a little bed and breakfast, and then just go out every day and eat.
Yeah.
I don't care how many months or years you spent traveling and eating around Italy, this is a whole other thing.
Good food seems to be a fundamental right here in Sardinia, and the most fundamental of Sardinian foods would have to be this, the flatbread known as panna carazao.
The taste changes when you work the bread with your hands.
nome del Padre, del Figlio, dello Spirito Santo.
Before Italy existed, before Christ, the Roman Empire, or even the Etruscans, there was pane carasau, a constant on every Sardinian table, and increasingly an object of fascination for me. If the history of the world is indeed on your plate, this crispy flatbread is a perfect illustration of centuries of Sardinian history. It can be held and eaten as much as a year after baking. Perfect for a culture used to long sieges against a procession of enemies in hilltop redoubts. Also perfect for a culture of shepherds who need to be away from home up in the mountains tending their flock for days or weeks at a time. It's an absolutely essential part of the diet here, and has been as long as there's been a Sardinia. It looks easy, but it's not. Maybe you can pick it up from your mother or grandmother after a few decades of trying to get it right. It's a deceptively delicate multi-stage operation. It takes time and real dedication. Andriana's been getting her bread from Antonia and Maria for a long time. And as I've come to learn, nothing happens around here without somebody whipping out a knife and carving off some local pecorino, some family-made sausage, a little pane carasau, and of course, whipping out the wine.
Just the omnipresence of good cheese, good sauces, good wine, good bread, everywhere, every meal.
Il vero pecorino.
A real pecorino, a true pecorino.
So this is a special taste because the taste changes when you work the bread with your hands.
This is not the most outgoing of cultures, but once you're in, cross the door, there's a relaxed hospitality everywhere. A sense that life and work are quite hard enough, and food and wine and natural, an appropriate reward. Some freshly made goat cheese demonstrates the utility of pane carasau as not just food, but also plate and implement.
He will show us how to eat zavrue with this special dish. Ci faccia vedere come plate and fork.
Grazie.
Promisi.
So good fresh.
Yeah, it's a tool in a way. Can you imagine a shepherd in the middle of nowhere for the meat? You can serve the meat with the bread as a plate, as a dish.
See, this is something, you cannot buy this for $1 million in New York. You cannot get this.
Certo. Mamma mia, questo è buonissimo.
As happens in settings this intimate, the line between fellow workers becomes permeable. The crew begins to forget we have another scene to shoot, and I begin to believe I understand a lot more Italian than I really do. Some more wine, a little more sausage and cheese, and always at the center of things, pane carasau. Another part of Sardinia, about an hour and a half northeast of Nuoro, and another agriturismo, because, well, I could never get enough of these things. Predas Rujas sits in the middle of farmland, atop a hill, looking out over fields and ancient watchtowers.
Yeah.
We're here with owners Laura and Gianpaolo, Ottavia's uncle Graziano, and at another table, more family and friends. First up, some extraordinary hand-formed pasta with porcini.
Grazie.
What's it called?
Macarones de busa with porcini, mushroom, and ricotta cheese. You know how I told you yesterday that they use the knitting sticks?
The knitting needle to
The knitting
make the
needle
pasta.
to make them, but they use the bicycle spoke.
He uses the bicycle spoke?
Otherwise the umbrella.
The umbrella
Yeah.
spar.
Yes.
E c'è anche un po' di gusto molto forte.
If we weren't here, would they be speaking Sardinian?
No. Sardinian dialect is not something that you can understand just because you're Italian. It's like a completely different language.
So when did that start to disappear?
Esattamente alla fine della guerra.
At the end of the war. When the Americans came,
Oh,
it was
sorry.
Americans' fault.
Oh no, a bunny. Look at the bunny. Bunny, look. We're eating bunnies, aren't we? So like she's gonna play with the bunnies while we eat their relatives?
Yes, basically. That's okay.
Such is nature, a cruel place. The cycle of life. Whatever. The menu here is a lot of game, wild game.
In comparison to other regions in Italy, there is a lot of game in Sardinia.
This is a region where game is more prominent on menus, so we've got partridge and 2 types of rabbit, well, wild hare and wild rabbit. The hare is skinned and the organs removed, then browned in the pan until golden, and then all those tasty guts, the liver, hearts, and lungs are chopped up with capers and herbs and mixed together with a deglazing of vinegar, and the whole glorious thing is slowly braised until tender. The partridge is plucked and cleaned and all the guts removed. In their place, the cavities stuffed with pancetta and sutured closed. The birds are slowly simmered in water until done and allowed to rest. Ooh, partridge, I believe. Betty, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember shortly after we first met, I said, well, so what is the specialty in your town? Remember?
Yeah.
And you looked at me like I was an idiot. I said, in the summer we eat the fish from the lake.
Yes.
In the winter we eat the birds.
The earth in Sardinia doesn't give back that much. It's like a poor terrain, but it has a great quality.
Yeah, how's your bunny? Good bunny?
This is wild rabbit and this is wild hare.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, like, you know, if you want to have this kind of meat, you have to raise it yourself because you just can't find it on the market. But like,
absolutely fantastic.
you know, that's why, like, I do have a hard time sometimes, you know, eating meat, you know, in New York. And I'm like, I know you think I'm crazy. And I'm like, I'm like, it's not like because I'm picky, it's because, you know, I'm used to eat the steak that, the neighbor raised the cow and I know where it came from.
This is incredible. Wonderful.
And then this, fresh farmer cheese with honey, which is almost enough to make you black out with pleasure.
This is one of those things you can't reproduce this anywhere. I mean, this was made
just
2 hours ago?
Yeah, you just can't. This ricotta is delicious. It's so good.
If you don't have actual family in Sardinia, the agriturismo is as close as you can get to a real home-cooked meal. Sardinians aren't shy about stating their opinions. They're just more artistic than most.
Away the fastest Americans from Vietnam.
Yes. A bit of what it takes to get me excited.
Just extraordinary. It's a perfect dish. This is absolutely perfect.
Murals tend to represent a point of view. If you're rich, you tend towards the beautiful fountains and flower murals. If not, you express the suffering, the poor, the powerless, and the angry. There's a tendency when talking about Sardinia to emphasize the ancientness of everything, as if nothing's happened since the Roman Empire packed up and left town. But Sardinia is a living culture, and the murals of Orgosolo are one very obvious example of that. Our friend Carlos gave me a tour of some of the more than 300 murals that represent a kind of political graffiti and social folk art history of modern Sardinia.
They're called murales, painted in the last 30 or 40 years, basically, and they're about political issues.
What are these women crying about? It looks like Guernica or Northern Ireland, story of martyrdom. Was there actually conflict here in the 60s?
Yes, because Sardinia was moving from traditional society to modern society. The main issues are the communist movement in '69. Here had a connotation of not only internationalism, but also against the Italian army, who's always used Sardinia for maneuvers.
It wasn't like military rule, though. I mean, they were just doing maneuvers here.
Yes, but it would mean to close fence big portions of territory where shepherds would bring the cattle.
And that's a big deal here.
That's
everything.
That's everything, because the use of the land has always been regulated by ancient rules and not the normal private property.
Yeah, and here, of course, our familiar character, the fascist imperialist American, loaded with dollars, having just departed from crushing the Vietnamese worker.
Away the fascist Americans from Vietnam.
Yes. forgive me for pointing this out as a fascist imperialist American, but communism would never have worked here. The communist notion of apportioning land to workers would have to be contrary to traditional methods of dividing up land.
Absolutely. So I absolutely agree with you.
In a way, Sardinia avoided class struggle because nobody had it very good. Shepherd, farmer, or businessman. Until recently, life's been hard for everyone here.
Not only it wasn't easy, it was terrible. It was 16 hours working. But what it was really, it was the same for everybody. That was the issue. It was very hard, but there wasn't anybody who didn't have that kind of life.
Right.
And so you felt in some way protected.
It's very beautiful. It's fantastic that they keep this stuff.
In most ways, Oristano looks like a typical town of inland Sardinia. There are a few visible accommodations to tourism or the Mediterranean yachting class. But Oristano does lie just a few short miles from a system of bays and coves that provide some of the best fishing in the world, adding a whole other dimension to Sardinian cuisine. There's probably a Catalan tradition of shellfish and shellfish sauces here, most famously the spiny lobster dishes. It's also the center of the world for really, really good botarga, and one of my favorite, if not my single favorite pasta ever.
As much as it seems like if you eat in the interior, it's like meat game. Sardinia is also about
fish, yes.
A lot,
lobster,
seriously.
A lot.
And what we're going to eat today, very traditional recipe.
Very, very traditional.
Andreana's arranged a seafood meal at the home of a family friend, Gianni, a businessman who, not unusually, is also a great cook. Along for the ride, cousin Flavio, Andreana's son, and Giovanni, a lobster fisherman and Flavio's fishing buddy. Botarga is salt-cured fish roe, here made from the egg pouch of the local mullet. While there's botarga made elsewhere from other fish, I think this is the best in the world. To start, there are local artichokes, sliced raw and tossed with olive oil and dried botarga. A little taste before we get to the pasta course, something I've been annoyingly giddy about.
You know, you mix the kind of the iron of the artichoke and the sweetness of the olive oil, and the flavor of the botarga is very, very aggressive, and mixed all together, they make an unbelievable flavor.
Botarga, seemingly a simple thing, but so amazingly good. Heat up good olive oil, drag a clove of garlic and a pepper through the oil, just a wave, then add slices of botarga, simmer until they start to fall apart. Add your cooked spaghetti, toss gently, add a sprinkling of powdered dried botarga, and oh my God, is it good. Garnish with more botarga if you like. Go ahead.
Oh. It's a perfect dish. This is absolutely perfect. Just extraordinary. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so simple, so beautiful, and so good. Oh man, this is luxurious.
Mamma mia, come si dice, very good.
Yeah, very good, yes. Grazie.
Perfetto. Sì, sì, hai visto? You saw the light in your eyes when you saw the botarga, vero?
So beautiful.
Andreana, the botarga was born in Oristano. This is the epicenter of the botarga. You can only make it like this because of the temperature and the quantity of fat. So you can only do it with this fish in that particular time frame.
Right.
The olive oil also. Homemade.
Oh, really?
He didn't buy it at the supermarket. The one that he used today, for us, it's his own.
Wait a minute. I thought he worked in the financial sector. How come he's making olive oil and botarga and all of these great products?
Comunque la nostra civiltà nuragica, anche la tua, non solo la mia, no?
This is part of their tradition. He had and he still has a great relationship with his mom. This is what his mom used to make, and this is what he learned. So that's how, you know, even if he's a busy man, you know, he still makes his olive oil and he still makes botarga because it's just, you know, part of his culture, part of who he is.
See, this is the difference between French and Italian culture. At the end of the day, it's all about mom and the ingredient.
Sì.
Grazie.
The fish the botarga came from, the mullet, steamed whole with fresh herbs and lemons from the trees in the garden, and the famous spiny lobster.
Well, that's professional looking.
Served with a sauce traditionally made from the lobster's roe, guts, and pounded shells. A shot of good balsamic to cut the incredible richness of the meat. The vinegar cuts the fat, you know, the richness. It's warm, a bit scary, delicious, and intense. The Festival of San Francesco at Lula.
I think we chose the right room. They're rowdy here.
A festival in Sardinia is very much a local thing. Each has its own history, and many are said to predate Christianity in their origins. But you can be pretty sure that if it's a festival, it revolves around the church. You can also be sure that there'll be a lot of cooking, eating, and drinking involved. The Festival of San Francesco happened to fall around the time of our visit, the last day of a pilgrimage in the village of Lula, not too far from Nuoro. The culmination of a yearly walk from all over the surrounding areas, where pilgrims stay for some time, making offerings to San Francesco. Cooks and kitchen workers are deep in the final stages of a meal for pilgrims and visitors alike. All this represents the culmination of a year of planning and logistics, and the end of a week of very hard work for this group. Back in the day, festivals like this one were like the only party in town for the largely isolated, hard-working farmers and shepherds, so there's a traditional inclination to make the most of it. The family have been invited to join the traditional midday meal for the workers.
Sounds like it's getting crazy in there. Wow.
As I guess you've gathered by now, it's all about family around here. So with the apparent strangers next to us, it takes only a few minutes to figure out which wing of the Buzia clan we are and who knows who and from what part of Sardinia.
There are people that you don't really know, but then, you know, you find out the mother of the guy, sister was the neighbor, so at the end of the day, you know, they're like family.
Good pasta?
A good boo-boo?
At the back of the house, the people in the immediate orbit of the prior and his wife, who've looked after this retreat for the last year. Each year, a married couple is elected to look after this place and to lead the planning, recruiting, and fundraising needed for the next year's festival. This is the departing prior, a position of great honor, and as you can see, an emotional matter when his staff and workers gather to say goodbye. His replacement will arrive soon, accompanied by the young men of the area, but for the moment, it's an opportunity to say thank you and express appreciation.
I think we chose the right room. They're rowdy here.
The workers get a good, simple meal. The pilgrims are invited to try some traditional goodies next door. It's a stand and slurp situation, but worth it.
Honey, this is filinde.
First, a handmade noodle concoction called filinde, which means, by the way, hair of God. The noodles are floated in a sheep broth enriched with sheep's milk cheese. Back in the day, the food reflected what pilgrims and worshippers could give, so sheep was pretty much the traditional centerpiece.
Basically, that was the principal business for everybody in Sardinia. Well, I'm sorry Ottavia is going to miss this, but nap time for baby.
Yeah.
In another room, there's a variety of dishes from every part of the sheep. And then, this masterpiece. When me and Andriana walk in, everybody was kind of standing around, and I thought, what's up? I got my answer soon as this blood-filled fun bag hit the table.
This is what they were waiting for.
Yeah.
Not unlike Scottish haggis, it's a sheep's stomach, this one filled with blood, thickened with bread, cheese, and herbs, and then boiled. It's a little lurid looking, I admit, when you cut in and all that red cravy comes spilling out.
It's like a bloody piñata. It's like a teddy bear with a surprise inside.
A delicious Niagara, which everybody's suddenly all over, jamming bread into and mopping up all that bleeding goodness. Out back, well, let's put it this way. Cooks, it seems, are the same everywhere.
Nothing changes the world over. It's always the cooks sitting in the back getting seriously ripped.
No, è cambiato solo il mondo e basta.
Only the world changed.
Only the world changes. The cooks stay the same.
Yes.
After a break for a final mass, the distant yet gathering thunder of whoos. and I'm starting to get the idea of how old all this really is. This ain't some cheesy-ass theme park recreation. This is genuinely old. As the entire missing demographic of young men from the surrounding areas and clothes right out of another century, having had, I gather, more than a few beverages on their long journey, arrived with the new prior and his wife. An imposing sight as their huge and at times barely controlled beasts jostle and heave through the monastery's main gate, push their way through the crowds, and take a victory lap or two around the chapel. Brings you back a bit, doesn't it? To when an even harder life left you totally dependent on the whims of God or nature. Where family and friends might be celebrating like this one minute and fighting off invaders the next. When once upon a time the sound of men on horseback approaching your village was reason to hide the children and reach for a weapon, at least until you determined intentions. Back then, you fought when you had to, against the land itself, against anybody who tried to mess with your land, and when given the opportunity, you feasted like there was no tomorrow. And finally, what it's all about, eating with the family in Sardinia. Self-respecting Italian family lets you leave without a big home-cooked meal. And in this way, Sardinia is still Italy. Every family has its general, its designated chef, and in the Busia family, there's no doubt who runs the kitchen. Every floor of this 5-story compound has its own kitchen, but this is the communal one, the main kitchen for special events, and Adriana's busy making the best meal of the trip. The smells coming out of the kitchen would, I promise, bring you happily to your knees. If you could smell this, you'd be biting and snapping your way through your TV screen. Hunks of cinghiale, that's wild boar, you know. One of the few words I actually know, brazen away for one of my favorite things, a special request. Adriana's been helping and shaping what we've seen and done and experienced on this trip since the beginning. Right now, though, it's total control, her time. With her son Flavio, of course, more than ably assisting. He's done this before, I gather. I can recite this meal pretty much by heart. Sliced prosciutto of wild boar, homemade sausages, green olives from the yard, wild asparagus, local artichokes and mushrooms, roasted pepperoncini and local olive oil. Adriana's handmade ravioli with homemade ricotta, and malaredus, the tender yet slightly chewy, ever so wonderful gnocchi-like things, which I'm insane for, tossed with the braised wild boar. Oh yes. There's a little roasted lamb and lamb bits, the liver, and whole roast suckling piggies, and eel, and Adriana's famous snails with spicy pomodoro. Both times I've been here, and today, it's like a greatest of the greatest hits of Sardinia, all on one table. Generally speaking, you don't trust restaurants around here. It's a sign of failure, or desperation, or ignorance to have to go to a restaurant. Laziness would be a marginally acceptable excuse, I guess, but otherwise, everybody seems capable in the kitchen.
Mangia tutto. Il maiale magari no, però mangia tutto. Did you have the pepper? Because it's very spicy.
Good.
It's good?
Sta giocando? No, si diverte.
Ma con la scuola di lavoro?
Oh, yes, and I'm going to give you all the food that Mama won't let you have. If she ate every day like this, the grilled cheese would be a thing of the past.
I know. I wish you could eat like this every day. We have to take my aunt over with us and bring her to New York. Ecco.
My favorite pasta's coming up next, maloredus.
Noi eravamo in macchina.
Oh, the maloredus, I'm so excited. Oh, I love this dish. Very happy.
Maloredus with wild boar.
Nice.
It's very simple, but delicious.
Now, they're kind of like gnocchi, but...
But they don't use potato. Flour, water, and salt. Nothing else.
Cominciamo col portarlo a tavola.
Permesso per
Oh, wow. Oh, so cute.
Nice. It is cute, huh?
In a delicious sort of a way.
I know.
Wow.
It's all the inside of the pig, everything, like everything. And it's wrapped up in the stomach of the pig.
Right.
The heart, the lungs, everything that you can find inside the pig is all wrapped up inside the stomach. Ooh, the tail of the pig. It's good luck.
It's so crunchy and crispy.
What do you do after your dreams come true? I've had 3 or 4 full lives already, most of which I was surprised to find I'd survived. This is like bonus round. Undeserved, probably, but like some insane pinball machine, life keeps kicking out extra points, regardless of how I've played it. I imagine myself, of course, keeling over among the tomato vines in the backyard somewhere, chasing a grandchild around with a slice of orange in my mouth.
Big tray of pig parts and another one of pig innards. Good wine. Daughter happy?
For a guy who so rarely is home, with such a distorted view of what home is or might be to start with, I'm a pretty sickeningly happy guy these days. I tend, I know, to over-romanticize things, especially when it comes to all matters Italian or Sardinian. This is, after all, a country not my own, though I guess now it is as much as any place. This is home now.
Ho ancora quei pantaloncini lì.